So I have a question for you. It's a very difficult question. What is this called? Is it called a texting machine or is it called a phone? It's called a phone, right? I want you to remember that, okay? Because in modern days, so much of communication tends to be textual and online and whatnot that a lot of guys forget the phone can be used to make a call, all right? And making a call, actually communicating with your voice, is so much more powerful than communicating via text. Actually, what you can do is even better is if you can get the girl on Skype or FaceTime and actually like see her and talk to her, oh my God, right? That's like one step below actually having her on a date with you. And if you're far away, it can be actually even more of a connection than that, okay? The point is, the more sensory rich the communication is, the more similar to an in-person conversation it is, the more powerful it is, okay? So if you can get the girl on a phone call, you can convey and communicate your personality so much better and so much more attractively than you possibly ever could in text, all right? So you want to use the phone liberally, all right? When I was coming up in the game, it was before everybody texted all the time. I mean, text messages existed, but like people actually picked up the phone. And so I actually spent the time and got really, really good at phone game. I spent an hour a day calling up all my numbers. I'd call until I got dates, had called through all my numbers, or just like, I was just done, right? I just called every single day. I got really good at it. I'm at the point now where if I can get a girl on the phone, like if I call and she picks up, I get a date more than 90% of the time, okay? More than 90%. Talk about low flake rate, okay? So get the girl on the phone. It's massively, massively, massively valuable, all right? And the way that you talk to her when you do get her on the phone, it's mostly just building a good vibe and building comfort, okay? Build a good vibe, build comfort, that's your first thing. Remember, again, same as in text, the reason she gave you the number is that she liked you or was attracted. The reason she'll hang out with you is because she feels comfortable and is having a good experience, okay? So focus on comfort and good experience. And then same as in text, you're gonna close once it's good. But again, soft close, same as in text, you're gonna soft close on the phone. So not good conversation, hey, let's get a drink 7 o'clock on Tuesday at the wine bar. No. Instead, hey, you know what, you're actually kind of cool. What does your schedule look like this week? Are you nerding it out, or do you have some time to actually like relax and enjoy life? She says, oh, da-da-da-da. Oh, cool, you know what, it might be fun to grab a drink with you, but I'm not so sure, I think you might be trouble, I don't know, da-da-da. She's like, oh no, I'm cool. Okay, yeah, in that case, let's do Tuesday, right? So it's a soft close, multi-step, not the all-at-once close, all right? But the big point here is use the phone. Use the phone, use the phone, use the phone. And if you're not good on the phone, get good on the phone. It is the most powerful tool in your arsenal, all right? So we're gonna talk a little bit about how to use the phone, and more specifically in the next few videos, when you can get them on the phone, okay? You wanna get them on the phone if you can, but what are the scenarios where you have a good likelihood that if you pick up the phone and call, they'll actually answer, right? Because if you pick up the phone and call and they don't answer, that looks bad. You pick up the phone and they answer, 90%, you're getting a date. The first example of a time where you can be pretty confident the girl will pick up her phone is if you've just been texting back and forth with her. In particular, if it's been a bunch of texts, in particular, if her texts are getting a bit longer and more complicated. So you know that moment when she texts you something and you look at the text, you're like, holy shit, like how do I even answer that in a text? It's too long, it's too complicated. If this was a good friend of yours rather than a girl you're trying to sleep with, what would you do? You'd pick up the phone and call just to clarify things and have like a more normal conversation. At that moment, you should do the exact same thing with her. One, because it's very, very congruent, right? It's very congruent, it's the right time to do it. Secondly, because since she's been texting back and forth, and especially texting back and forth quickly, it's an indication she's not doing anything else. It's an indication she's actually free and can pick up the phone. And then finally, if she's been texting back and you call, it's actually awkward for her not to pick up, because not only do you know she's free and texting, she knows that you know she's free and texting. And so it's like, oh God, how can I not pick up? It's weird. And so you can use that to kind of get her on the phone, okay? So that's the goal, again, is to get her on the phone. Don't even worry about like if she's a little nervous getting on the phone with you or whatever, just get her on the phone, because you can do so much better work when you're actually talking with her. So that's the first example. When she's been texting back a bunch in a short succession, especially if the texts are getting a bit longer, it's a good time to pick up the phone and give her a call. By the way, if you do pick up the phone and give her a call on this or any of the other ones, what I'll usually do is one of two things. Either if it's a generally really, really good interaction and you have a history of having called her before or anything like that, maybe sometimes I'll just like leave it and not even send anything. Or what I'll do is I'll kind of have in my mind before I call kind of what I would text if she doesn't pick up, or what I would text had I just texted back, and then I'll just text that. And sometimes you might be like, hey, guess you're busy anyway, blah, 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 blah. or guess you're at work, blah, 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 blah. But just like get to the point, send a quick text. Don't make a big deal out of it, and definitely don't think of it as though like you called and lost social capital. Treat it exactly the same way you would with a good friend, where you expect a good response and it's totally normal and natural to communicate in any way. A lot of guys are like, oh shit, I called and it messed up, now I lost a lot of value, and then they send some really needy text afterwards. Do not do that. Do not do that. Keep your text very simple, or even you don't even necessarily have to text all the time after they don't pick up the phone, okay? But that's the first opportunity, is when they've been texting you a lot. Next great opportunity to get the girl on the phone is at a prearranged time, okay? So let's say that you're texting with a girl and it's getting to the point where it's kind of time to schedule a date, or the vibe is really, really good, but it just turns out that you're very busy or she's very busy. It won't work to make plans over the next couple days. And a date is it's a big time commitment, especially the way I want to do a date. I want at least a 5-hour window if possible, minimum 3-hour window. I don't want any quick like half-hour coffee date bullshit, okay? So that's a commitment, both in terms of my schedule and hers. It may be that that's not possible, but the vibe is really, really good. In that case, what I would do, instead of scheduling a date, I might actually schedule a phone call, right? So if you schedule a phone call, be like, hey, I'm really busy, but let's just talk like later tonight, like maybe 8:30, something like that. And then, you just get her on the phone that way. And then again, once you have her on the phone, your value builds massively. It's like, so you're busy, she's busy, but it's kind of crazy how much less busy girls get when they really like you, right? When you're like pursuing the girl a little bit and trying to get her on a date, she's super, super busy. Once you slept with a girl a couple of times and she's wrapped up in you, all of a sudden she'll drop all her plans for you. So yes, she's busy. Yes, she has plans, but the higher your value gets, the more she'll drop those plans for you. And so in the middle of doing texting and that kind of stuff, if you can get her on the phone and just have this massive value bump and massive comfort bump also from hearing your voice, getting to know you, all of a sudden you'll find a lot of her plans melt away. So if you're having trouble scheduling a time for the date because you're both very busy, your schedules are packed, whatever, instead of scheduling a date, maybe schedule a quick phone call and do that. It's less pressure than a date, less of a big deal, less of a time commitment. You can also schedule like a Skype call if you want to do that. Phone's generally a little bit easier for whatever reason because it's like less hassle, although FaceTime's kind of in between. But see what you can do in terms of that. Again, sometimes you can just schedule a call at a prearranged time, and that call will do so much for your value, comfort, the vibe, that then getting a date from there will be massively easier. The third time that is very, very likely a girl will pick up her phone is if you happen to know her schedule and know when she's doing nothing. Okay, now how would you know her schedule? A couple different ways. Number one, when you get the number, sometimes you can figure that out. You're like, hey, what does your week look like? Hey, what's your job? What hours do you normally work? That kind of stuff. And it totally makes sense in that context because you already had the premise of making plans and you're just finding that information out to make making plans easier. So if you find out that every single day she gets off work at 5:30 and she has like a half-hour drive home where she's doing nothing, and you could even be like, hey, what do you do in that drive? Do you do audiobooks? Do you listen to music? She's like, oh, I just blast my music, whatever, right? You know she's sitting in a car doing nothing, no obligations. Well, that might be a pretty good time to call her at that juncture because, she's doing nothing, she might pick up the phone, that kind of thing. This is less of a good opportunity than the ones where you have specific like time plans or she's specifically been texting you. But it is very useful. And you can actually use it in conjunction. For example, you could schedule the time at a time when she's free because she's driving home. Or you could start texting her during that drive and then she's free. So now you have two factors working in favor, which is one, she's texting you back. So she's kind of free. Texting while driving, very safe. But anyway, girls do it. And then finally, also, that she's free at that particular time. So texting back plus free means you have even a greater percentage. So I don't usually use this one all by itself, but I'll use this one in conjunction with the others to make it extremely likely that she'll pick up the phone for you. The final thing you can do to help a girl pick up the phone for you a lot is you can actually set the frame that it's gonna be a phone call, okay? There's a couple different ways to do this. This is something I learned mainly when I was doing online game. Because in online game, you're texting back and forth as is online, and then you exchange phone numbers. And the reason it makes sense to exchange phone numbers is like to call someone, to get them on the phone, right? Because what's the point of taking it from online texting to like text on your phone? I mean, it's a little more intimate, I guess, a little more personal, but it's pretty much the same thing. And so what I would do is I'd get the number online, and then my first text would say something in it like, please save this number so you can be appropriately excited for my call. Right? And number one, I'm saving the number in her phone. Remember that procedure, whether it's online or live, right? You got to get the number saved in her phone. But then I say appropriately excited for my call. I'm implying right there the frame that I'm going to call you, right? I'm getting her okay with that. And so then she expects the call. And especially from online, it makes total sense because you've been texting. Why would you get the number other than to call? But even in live interactions, you can kind of set that frame if you want to. You can kind of indicate that you prefer the phone instead of text. If you want to, as you're talking again, the number, you can do that. You have to be very careful about this because you don't want to couch it as needy. You don't want to couch it as like girls are flaky over text or something like that. But you could talk about like how like text is just so impersonal and you prefer phone calls, that kind of stuff. A lot of girls will appreciate, especially girls that are a little older will appreciate that a lot. Girls that remember, you know, the days when people actually picked up their phone and longingly missed them. But even younger girls can be very, very positive on that kind of stuff too, and actually can be very refreshing too. They'll respect, like, I respect the fact that you actually called me, etc. So that can be good for them as well. But yeah, if you can establish the frame, and the precedent that you are going to call them, or that it's to have a more human interaction, anytime you can do that, then you can call without losing social capital, right? And I'm not a big fan of, leaving messages on the phone, just because like, I feel like it's something that's very easy to mess up and very hard to do well. Although if you happen to like have a really sexy voice, or you can sing a little telegram fucking sonogram thing to her over the phone, and you know that works for you, by all means, whatever. I know guys who do that stuff. In general, I'm not a fan of leaving messages though. I'm a fan of just going to the text if they don't pick up. But again, set that frame, get them on the phone. It's massively, massively powerful. And one final word, a lot of guys tend to think that, like, they tell me girls don't pick up their phone, or especially like young girls don't pick up their phone, that kind of stuff. That's bullshit. I'll tell you right now, that's bullshit. If a girl likes you enough, she'll pick up the phone for you. So yes, girls have their natural habits and what they're comfortable with, and girls in general don't pick up the phone because they're not comfortable talking to strangers, right? Because they're shy around strangers, they don't know you that well. But if you have a good vibe with them, if you've built some comfort with them, if you've established the right frames with them, that kind of stuff, they will pick up the phone for you. Also, if they like you enough, regardless of anything else, they'll pick up the phone for you. If the girl's totally into you, if a girl's like dating you and seriously in love with you, even if she hates the phone, she'll pick up the phone for you. So don't give me this like, this girl doesn't pick up the phone. Every girl picks up the phone for fucking Brad Pitt, all right? So be Brad Pitt in her eyes, right? Be high enough value, be a cool enough guy, be of the right frame and the right vibe that she'll pick up the phone for you, and then she'll pick up the phone.